Hi, guys. Welcome to the Elbert County Library Story Time. Love to have you visit with us here virtually online. We're glad to have you. We've got a great storyteller with us today. We have Mr. Barry Stewart Mann, who is always one of our favorites, and we're just tickled pink to have him. He's going to be telling far-flung fairy tales, right, Mr. Mann?
Thank you so much, Miss Jan. I am. It's always a pleasure to come to Elbert County. I've been coming for many years, and I'm really excited to bring stories that are fairy tales, but from around the world. You'll see.
We are too. We're excited. Before we let you start, though, I do want to encourage the kids to go to our website and register online so that they can earn prizes and earn points toward a big prize at the end of the summer. We look forward to doing that. It may be called Beanstack, or it may be called just Elbert County Library Reading Challenge. Be sure to click that and register with your parents, okay? And the whole family can register this year.
All right. Well, are we ready to start, Miss Jan?
Ready to start, Mr. Barry?
Okay, then here we go.
All right.
Croak. Croak. Fargo, why are you croaking at those nice people out there? Because I'm a frog. That's what I do. Well, they're really nice. I just met you, but you should introduce yourself. All right. I'm Fargo, the flying frog. I leap into the air. Woo! No one can keep me down. I'm here, I'm there, I'm everywhere. Just like fairy tales, they travel, change, and grow. And sometimes one that seems real strange turns out to be just like one you know. That's right. You might know some fairy tales from the Brothers Grimm, or Hans Christian Andersen, or your favorite Disney film. But you will hear some fairy tales with a different place and name. But if you listen carefully, you'll realize they're very much the same. These far-flung fairy tales from all around the earth. They might make you wonder, but they're sure to bring you mirth. That's right. You'll say, this sounds familiar. Then you'll ask, is this a joke? Well, I sure hope they'll thrill ya, 'cause if not, I just might croak, croak, croak. Oh, Fargo, stop croaking. Well, that's what I do. I'm a frog. Oh, yeah, but you do more than that. You love going all around the world, gathering fairy tales. That's right, because people might not realize there are fairy tales all over the world. Yeah, and some of them are like our fairy tales. Right. Most of our fairy tales come from Europe. That's that pink continent right there on the world map. But there are fairy tales from other places too, right, Fargo? That's right. There are fairy tales from Africa. Ooh, that's this one right here. And Asia. Oh, that's over there. And Australia. That's over there. And also from North and South America. Oh, there's North America up there and South America over there. Wow, Fargo. So you have some fairy tales from all those faraway places? We do. Well, tell me, how did they get to all those places? Well, sometimes someone would travel from one place to another, like from Africa to South America, or from Asia to Europe, and bring the fairy tale with them. And then in the new place, the fairy tale would change and grow. But sometimes the same kind of fairy tale grew up in different places on its own. It's because all around the world, people care about the same things. They care about family and finding food and growing up and marrying a prince, or making sure to stay away from the big bad wolf or other kinds of mean creatures. Well, Fargo, I hope we have some good far-flung fairy tales today. We do. The first one, well, you want to tell them about the first one? I think I will. Well, you might know that little girl with the bright red riding hood. Yeah, the sick grandma, the hunting dude, and the wolf that meant no good. But far away in China, there's a tale you might not know of three sisters, a granny wolf, and it's called Lon Po Po. That's right, Lon Po Po. Well, Fargo, I want to tell them about Lon Po Po. So why don't you take a rest? You've been singing a lot, and for this, because we're going to do a story from Asia, I want to put on my Asian robe to share a story that is a lot like a story we know. It's a lot like that Little Red Riding Hood, but it is called Lon Po Po. Once there was a widow woman who lived out in the woods with her three daughters, Shang, the oldest, Tao, the middle one, and Paozi, the youngest. And one day, as it was getting late, the woman said to her daughters, "It is your grandmother's birthday. I must go to visit her. I am going to stay there overnight, so you must stay here alone. Be careful, don't go out, and when the sun sets, close the door and lock it tight." And then the mother left. Well, it just so happened that not very far away in the woods there lived a wolf. And the wolf had been watching this family, and the wolf watched the mother leave, and the wolf decided to try and get to those three delicious daughters. So the wolf got a little disguise and dressed up like a granny. Now in Chinese, the word for granny is po po, and wolf is lon. So lon po po means granny wolf. And the wolf came to the door and knocked on the door. And the wolf called in, "Children, it's your po-po, let me in." Shang, who was the clever one, said, "But Granny, Mother just went to visit you." And Po-po, the wolf, thought and said, "Oh, I did not pass her along the road." And Shang said, "But Granny, it is so late. Why are you coming so late?" And the wolf said, "It is a long way, and it took me a long time, but here I am. Please, let me in." Well, the two youngest ones, Tao and Paozi, were so excited to see their Po-po that they opened the door, and as soon as the wolf came in, the wolf put out the candle, so they couldn't see each other. And the two little ones said, "Oh, Granny, Po-po, give me a hug." And so the wolf took first Tao in his arms, and he said, "Oh, Tao, you are so plump." And then he took Paozi and said, "Oh, Paozi, you have become so sweet." And then the wolf pretended to be tired. "Oh, your old Po-po has gone a long way today. We must go to bed." And so the wolf climbed into the big bed, and Paozi, the little one, climbed in on one side, and Shang and Tao climbed in on the other side. And Shang was at the foot of the bed, and she could feel the wolf's tail. And she said, "Po-po, you have a bush on your foot." And the wolf thought quickly and said, "No, Shang, I brought some hemp strings to make a basket with." And then she felt the claws on one of the wolf's paws, and she said, "Granny, you have stickers on your hands." And the wolf said, "Oh, no, I have brought a little awl, a tool to make shoes for you with. Now let us go to sleep." But Shang was clever. Shang lit a candle very quickly, but just as quickly the wolf put it out. But not quick enough, for Shang was able to see the wolf's hairy face. And Shang thought quickly. She said, "Oh, Po-po, have you ever had any ginkgo nuts?" And the wolf said, "Ginkgo nuts? Oh, Po-po, they are so soft and tender and sweet. You would love ginkgo nuts." Well, the wolf was hungry. And the wolf said, "Yes, I would love ginkgo nuts. Where may I find them?" And Shang said, "Oh, Po-po, there's a ginkgo tree right outside our house. We will go and climb up the tree. Come with us." But Po-po said, "Oh, I am old. My bones are weak. I cannot climb a tree. You climb and bring them to me." And so Shang took her sisters Tao and Paozi, and they all went out of the house and climbed up the tree. And the wolf sat in the bed waiting. But Pautza did not come down, and Dao did not come down, and Shang did not come down, and she wondered, where is that sweet little Pautza? Where is that plump little Dao? And so she called out, children, are you bringing me my ginkgo nuts? But Shang called down, oh, Popo, you must come up here. The magic of the ginkgo only comes if you pluck the nuts yourself. And the wolf said, well, how can I come up? And Shang said, I have an idea. Popo, come out of the house, and at the bottom of the tree there is a basket, and there is a rope. And so the wolf came out, and he saw the basket and the rope, and Shang said, tie the rope to the basket, and then throw an end up to me. And so the wolf did it, and took the end and threw it up into the tree. And Shang said, climb into the basket, and I will pull you up. So the wolf climbed into the basket and said, yes, Shang, pull me up. And Shang started to pull. Here, can you pretend you are pulling and pulling? And Shang pulled and pulled, but when the basket was only halfway up, Shang let go. And the wolf and the basket tumbled to the ground. Oh, oh, oh. And Shang said, I am sorry, grandmother. Popo, I am not strong enough. And then Dao said, I will help you, sister. And so Shang and Dao grabbed the rope, and the wolf got in the basket, and Shang and Dao pulled. Here, help Shang and Dao pull. And the wolf in the basket came 3/4 of the way, almost all the way up, when the two of them let go. And the basket went boom. And the wolf said, oh, goodness me. Please pull me up so I can have some ginkgo nuts. And Pautza said, I will help. And so all three of them pulled and pulled, but Shang had told them what to do. And when the basket with the wolf was almost all the way at the top, and the wolf was reaching up to try and grab the ginkgo nuts, or maybe one of the girls, Shang coughed. And the three of them let go, and the basket went dropping. And when it landed, the wolf landed with such a crash that it broke his heart. And the three girls climbed down out of the tree and went very carefully into the house, and they locked the door tight. And when their mother came home the next day, they told her about what had happened and about their cleverness in tricking Lon Po Po, Granny Wolf. Yup, he deserved it. Well, who did, Fargo? The wolf! Oh, yeah, he was dressing up like a granny and trying to eat those three little girls. Yeah, just like in Little Red Riding Hood. Yes, but also different. In Lon Po Po, there were three girls, not just one, and the wolf came to them. In Little Red Riding Hood, the wolf went to Granny's house. Yeah, they're like each other, but also different. Well, where'd you find that story, Fargo? Well, it comes from China, but it's also in a book. Oh, it's in this book by Ed Young called Lon Po Po. And Ed Young is an author who's got wonderful children's books. He also wrote 7 Blind Mice, What About Me, and a bunch of other ones as well. Well, Fargo, do you have another story for us? You going to take us somewhere else? Yeah, now we're going to go on a big leap, woohoo, to Africa. Is there a Little Red Riding Hood story in Africa? No. The one we're going to do is about someone else. Well, who? Well, you all know Cinderella with her horrible stepmom. Oh, yeah, her fairy friends, the shoe that fell, and the prince who was the bomb. Well, down in southern Africa, by Zambezi's swift waters, there's a tale of magic with 2 sisters, Mufaro's beautiful daughters. Oh, Mufaro's beautiful daughters. That's a Cinderella story? Yes, it's like Cinderella, but also different. Well, Fargo, why don't you rest a little bit, because I want to show the folks on the map. He said the Zambezi River, which is down here in Zimbabwe, and that's where the story comes from. But now, since we're not doing a story from Asia, I'm going to take off my Asian robe, and instead I have a shirt that came from Africa. It's actually from West Africa. It's an African shirt that is called a dashiki. And here is my dashiki, and I have something else to help us get into this story. It's called mbira or a kalimba. It is also known as a thumb piano. You can find these all over Africa. And sometimes, before they do a story, they play a little song that might sound like this. A story, let it come and let it go. And now, here is Mufaro's beautiful daughters. In addition to my dashiki, I also have some African-style fabrics with beautiful bright colors on them. And a couple of my fabrics actually have African masks as part of the pattern. So I've taken those and used the mask as the faces and turned them into dolls to be the characters of our story. Well, once upon a time, in a small village a good distance from the palace where the king lived in the great city, there was a very kind man named Mufaro. Now, Mufaro, he tilled his land, and he looked after his animals, and he had two beautiful daughters. Their names were Manyara and Nyasha. Now, Nyasha was gentle and kind and looked after the farm and took care of many, many things. Manyara was a bit bossy and jealous and not nice at all. And Manyara would always say to her sister, "Oh, Nyasha, you want everyone to love you, and everyone always talks about how kind and sweet and helpful you are. Oh, why don't you just admit that all you care about is what people think about you?" And Nyasha would say, "No, sister, I just enjoy being kind and helping. I wish you would be kinder and more helpful sometimes. Perhaps things would run more smoothly around here." Well, Nyasha looked after the garden. And one day when she was out in the garden, tending to the plants, to the melons, to the millet, to the fruits and vegetables, she made a friend. It was a little green snake who came out in the garden. But she wasn't afraid of the snake. She looked down at the little fellow and she said, "Nyoka," that's the word for snake, "Nyoka, oh, won't you come and help me with my garden?" And she would sing gentle songs to him. "Oh, Nyoka, Nyoka." And Nyoka would guard the garden and get rid of some of the pests. And so her garden grew better than ever before. And people in the village around said that it was her songs that made her garden grow so nicely. Well, one day, Mufaro got a message from the king. And Mufaro called his daughters to him. "Daughters, the king has sent a messenger saying that he would like all of the beautiful young women throughout the kingdom to come to the palace, for he is ready to choose a wife, and he will choose the most beautiful and the worthiest, and I am certain that one of you will become the queen. So prepare to go to the palace tomorrow." Well, Manyara said, "Oh, father, Nyasha would be very sad to leave you. She dotes on you so I would be willing to go and represent our family, and that way Nyasha doesn't have to leave." And Nyasha said, "Yes, father, I would be very sad, but I will do as you please, whatever I must." Well, Mufaro said, "No, Manyara. The king has requested for all the young women from all over the realm. It is up to him to decide who is the most beautiful and worthiest. I would not keep either of my daughters home when the king has asked you to come." Well, in the nighttime, Manyara was not satisfied, and so she got up in the dark and she crept out of the house, and she started making her way to the great city. Along the way, she met a poor little boy who said, "Oh, please, miss, won't you give me something to eat?" Well, she had packed some bread and some fruit in a little pouch, but she said, "No, I'm going to be the queen. I'm not giving anything to a poor little boy. Now, out of my way." And then she came to a place where she met, up in the trees, there was a woman. And the woman looked down almost like a spirit and said, "Stop for a moment, for I have advice to give you." But Manyara said, "I am not stopping to hear advice from some old woman. I must continue on my way. I am going to be queen." And the woman said, "But let me advise you, if you come to a place where there is a man with a strange head, do not be shy, but look upon him and smile. And if you come to a place where the trees seem to be laughing at you, be polite to them, for they mean you no harm." But Manyara said, "Oh, get out of my way, you silly old woman. I have more important things than to listen to your ridiculous counsels." And so she continued on her way. Well, in the morning, when everyone in the village woke up, Nyasha said, "Oh, father, our sister is gone. Manyara has disappeared. We must find her." But Mufaro said, "No, Nyasha, today is the day that you must go to the palace." "Well, perhaps Manyara has gone ahead." "Yes, perhaps. I'm sure we will find her somehow. But it is now time for us to leave." And so Mufaro and Nyasha and many of the people of the village who believed that one of Mufaro's beautiful daughters would certainly be chosen, they made a long, long line of people marching through the jungle and through the woods off to the palace. Along the way, Nyasha met that little boy. "Oh, please, miss, I am so hungry. Won't you give me something to eat?" Well, she had packed things in her bag as well, and so she gave him a little piece of bread. "I was going to have this, but you may have it and enjoy." And he thanked her. "I thank you kindly." And then she met that same old woman up in the trees. "Oh, stop, young lady. I have counsels to give you." "Oh, yes, wise one. What do you have to tell me?" "Well, along the way you may come to a place where there is a man with a very strange head, but do not be shy. Be polite to him. And the same with the trees that may seem to laugh at you. If they laugh, just smile and do not be disrespectful." And so Nyasha said, "I will do as you say." And so she continued on her way. She indeed did see a man with a strange head, as Manyara had on her journey, but Nyasha was kind and smiled at him. And then she came to a place where the trees seemed to be laughing at her. And she just smiled and said, "Yes, trees, it is a lovely day." And she finally came to the palace. But as she approached the palace, she heard screaming, and then someone came running out. It was Manyara. "Nyasha, Nyasha, turn back! There is a horrible monster in the palace." "What do you mean, sister?" "When I came to see if I could find the king, but I found a horrible monster with many heads who was going to demolish me and eat me. Turn back." "Oh no, sister, I must not be afraid. I will go ahead." And so she went into the palace. And when she got into the palace, she did not find the king. Instead, on the king's throne, she saw Nyoka. "Oh, Nyoka, my little friend, what are you doing here?" But in an instant, Nyoka switched and transformed into the king. And the king said, "Nyasha, I have been waiting for you. For I was Nyoka, the little snake that you treated so kindly. And I was the boy in the forest that you gave food to, and the wise old woman whom you respected. I can see that you are beautiful, but more importantly, I know that you are the worthiest woman in the realm. I would like for you to be my wife." And so all were invited to the palace, and Mufaro was so excited that his daughter, "I am so pleased for you, Nyasha," that his daughter would become the queen. And so Nyasha became the queen, and Manyara, her sister, became her serving woman. And that is the story of Mufaro's beautiful daughters. And if you like that story, you can find it in a wonderful picture book by John Steptoe called Mufaro's Beautiful Daughters. The illustrations take you right to Zimbabwe by the shores of the Zambezi River. And that is our story. "Oh, that's so sweet. It makes me want to cry." "Oh, yes, it is sweet, isn't it? Yeah, the girl, she got to be with the prince, just like Cinderella. Yeah, it is kind of like Cinderella, isn't it? Yes, but very different, too. There weren't stepsisters, just one real sister. Yeah, and there wasn't a carriage made from a pumpkin or a shoe that got dropped in the stroke of midnight and all that. No. But in the end, the one who did all the work and who was so nice, she got to be with the prince and get married, and the mean one didn't. Yeah, so it is kind of a Cinderella story. Well, that one you can find in a book too. Oh, yeah, it's in this book. It's called Mufaro's Beautiful Daughters by John Steptoe. It's got beautiful pictures. It takes you right down to Zimbabwe, where the story takes place. Well, do you have another place you want to take us? I think I do. Where are we going to go now? We're going to go to the Caribbean islands. Well, is it another Cinderella story? Not quite. You all know Rumpelstiltskin of baby stealing fame. He wouldn't give it back unless the mother guessed his name. Well, down among the islands where Caribbean sea waves roll, they tell a tale that's similar with a reggae twist. It's the girl who spun gold. Oh, the girl who spun gold. This should be fun. It will. Well, why don't you sit down, because I want to show everyone on the map we're talking about the islands of the Caribbean Sea, which are right here. You see, we're in Georgia. DeKalb County is right about there, but the Caribbean Sea is down here, and it's nice and warm. So I better take off my West African dashiki, and I'm going to put on a Caribbean hat. You see, it's a hat made to keep the sun off. It's got wonderful little shells on it, and we are ready for our next story. The Girl Who Spun Gold. Well, don't you know that they say a long time ago down among the islands there was a little fella who had a pointy green hat, and he had a little tail, and wherever he went gold sparkles flew around him, and he floated above the ground, and his name was Litman because he was a little man, and he used to stay down among the roots of trees. And one day he was in the roots of some trees looking out at the house where there was a lady and her daughter, and just then along came the king. His name was Big Man, and he came riding along, and he saw this girl and her mother talking, and he said, "What are you talking and laughing about so much?" And the mother, she was a little worried because her daughter was trying to spin thread. Her daughter was named Kwashiba or Sheba, and she wasn't very good at spinning the cotton into the thread. So her mother, thinking quickly, said, "Oh, your majesty, my daughter, don't you know, she is spinning the most beautiful golden thread. She will spin rooms and rooms full of thread and fabric. In fact, maybe someday she will make some for you." And the king took one look at Sheba, and Sheba took one look at the king, and he said, "Oh, she is beautiful. And if she can spin thread the way you say and make everything of gold, then I have a mind to take her for my wife." And so he invited Sheba and her mother along with him and took them back to the palace. And along the way, Sheba whispered, "Mother, why did you tell such a fib? That is a lie." And her mother said, "I just said what came into my mind. Don't worry, it will be okay." And they got to the palace, and the king put out a banquet like they had never seen before. All roasted goat and fish and mangoes and papaya and fruits and beans and rice and everything. And then he had the servants bring beautiful gowns for Sheba. And everyone came out and they said, "Big King, Queen Sheba." Can you say that? Big King, Queen Sheba, Big King, Queen Sheba, Big King, Queen Sheba. And she was happy, and the king said to her, "Oh, now you are my queen, so you will have whatever you want. The finest foods, the most beautiful gowns and robes, jewels to your heart's desire. Invite all your friends to the palace. You will have whatever you want for 1 year and 1 day. And after that, then you will spin for me beautiful golden fabric and thread and cloth and things, just as your mother said you can do." And then when the king left, her mother said, "Oh, Queenie, what are you going to do?" But Queen Sheba said, "Oh, don't you worry, mother, my dearie dear. It's a long time, a year and a day, and the king will forget." And so it was that for a year she had whatever she wanted. She had lords and ladies waiting on her, and bakers baking her cakes, and pie makers making her pies, and her friends came, and she had beautiful gowns, and she and Big King were very happy together. But 1 year and 1 day, and the king said, "Ah, my queen, now it is time." And he took her to a very big room, as big as a ball field. And he said, "Now, Queen Sheba, go in here, and you have all night to spin all the beautiful thread that you can." And he put her in the room, and he padlocked the door. And there in the room, Sheba thought, "What am I going to do? He is going to realize I cannot spin. It doesn't come out right when I put it on the spinning wheel." And she started to cry when she heard a sound. And she looked around, and there she saw, as if from out of thin air, this little fellow. And he said, "What is wrong, little queen?" And she told him. And he said, "I can help you." Well, she did not like the look of this man, but she had no other choice. She said, "What can you do for me?" He said, "I will spin for you. I will do whatever you need, but you have to promise me one thing. You will guess my name. You will have 3 guesses, each of 3 nights. So if you cannot guess my name with 3 guesses on 3 nights, then I will take you with me. I will make you as small as I am, and you will come and live with me in the shade forever and a day." Well, she pulled herself back. She did not want to agree to this, but she had no choice. She said, "Very well, little man." And so he darted all around the room, and it made her dizzy, and she fell asleep. And in the morning, when she woke up, there was beautiful golden thread and ribbons everywhere. And the little man said, "All right, Queenie Queen, what is my name?" And she said, "Your name is Septimus." And he said, "No, it is not Septimus." And she said, "Your name is Obadiah." He said, No, not Obadiah." She said, "Perhaps it is Jama Jamama." "No! You now only have 2 nights left, 3 guesses each night, but you must think and guess my name, or you will be mine." And he disappeared. Well, when the king came in, he was amazed at all of the things that she had made, and so he let her out of that room, and she had a lovely day. But then, at the end of that day, he said, "Come, my queen," and he put her into another room, and there it was even bigger than the first, and he said, "Spin more tonight, or else you will be locked in this room forever and a year." And he locked the door, and he left. And she thought, "What can I do?" But you know what happened. That little fellow came back, and he said, Queenie Queen, you want my help again?" She said, "Yes, I think I do." "Well, you must guess my name." "I will guess your name." "Well, then I will spin for you." And he began to move all around, and she fell asleep. And so she slept, and he spun. And when she woke up in the morning, she looked around, and everywhere she saw beautiful golden fabrics, bright and shiny. And he said, "Well, I have done my part. Now you do yours. What is my name?" And she said, "Your name must be Nicholas." He said, "No, it is not Nicholas." She said, "I think your name is Nehemiah." Do you know what he said? He said, "No, it is not Nehemiah." She said, "Well, it must be Nebuchadnezzar." No, you do not know my name. One more night, and then you will be mine." And he disappeared. When the king came back in, he was so impressed at the beautiful fabrics that he said, "Come, my queen, I have a great feast for you." And so he brought her out and put out a fine feast with roasted pig and coconuts and fish and bananas and everything. And then, after they had eaten, and the king was very happy and full of himself, He said, "Ah, my queen, the strangest thing happened to me yesterday." And she said, "What happened, my husband?" He said, "I was out hunting for some wild hog when I heard a strange sound, and I looked down in the roots of a tree, and I saw a strange creature. He had striped pants and a tail, and he was floating above the ground with a pointy green hat, not like anything I'd ever seen, and smaller than any person I'd ever seen." And she said, "Oh." And he said, "And he was singing a little song. He said, 'My name be Litman, Litman be my name. My name be Litman, Litman be my name.'" She said, "Litman?" He said, "Yes." And then he said, "My mama told me. She said, 'Litman, you're going to be special. You're going to be magic. Litman Bityun. Litman Bityun is your name.'" She said, "Litman Bityun." She remembered that. And at the end of that day, the king put her into another room, and she waited and waited and looked, and just as before, the little man came. "Ah, Queenie, this is the last night." And he said, "I will spin for you." And he darted all around, and she fell asleep. And in the morning, when she woke up, he said, "Now, Queenie, tell me, what is my name? This is your last chance." And she said, "Your name is Squashimut." And you know what he said? No, that is not my name. That is not my name, Squashimut. No, that is not my name. What is my name?" And she said, "Your name must be Tear Down the Door." "No, it is not Tear Down the Door. No, that is not my name. What is my name? This is your last guess. What is my name?" She said, "Your name is Litman Bityun. That is the name that your mother gave you, you ugly little thing." And the little man, he started to shake and quake, and his hat flew off, and his ears fell off, and then his whole self burst into 1,000 pieces of gold. And there was nothing there except the smell of burnt feathers. And when the king came in, he was amazed to see beautiful, beautiful, shiny gold fabric. But his beautiful wife was not shining. She was angry at him, and even though she had done what he said, she would not speak to him. She felt angry that he had treated her so, and so for 3 years she did not talk to him. But they say that after a while she forgave him, and they probably lived happily enough. As for that little Litman, no one ever saw him again. And that is the story. And it is a story that you can find in a book called The Girl Who Spun Gold by Virginia Hamilton, with illustrations by Leo and Diane Dillon. It's a wonderful twist on Rumpelstiltskin. Wow, she sure was lucky. Oh, what do you mean, Fargo? Well, her mom told a story to the king that wasn't true, but she got lucky because that little man came to help her, and then she couldn't figure out his name, but she got lucky because her husband, the king, overheard it. Why, you're right. She was very lucky. That's true. Well, Fargo, where'd you find that story? Oh, that one's in a book, too. Oh, it's this book right here. It's called The Girl Who Spun Gold, and it's by Virginia Hamilton. And Virginia Hamilton has written a lot of wonderful books. She has both picture books and also novels for young adults. And one of her books is called Her Stories. They're folk tales and fairy tales about strong girls and women. And there's another one called The People Could Fly. And that's a wonderful story as well. So when the libraries are open again, I encourage you to go and find some Virginia Hamilton stories. Well, Fargo, do you have another place you want to take us? Yes. Where are we going now? To Mexico. Oh, is there a Rumpelstiltskin or a Little Red Riding Hood or a Cinderella story from Mexico? Well, there are, possibly, but that's not the one we're going to do. Oh, which one are we going to do? Well, you might know about that beanstalk and Jack the clever lad, the golden things he stole, and how they made the giant mad. Well, you'll now hear another tale with a slightly different slant. It comes from sunny Mexico. It's Paco and the giant chili plant. Oh, I get it. Like Jack and the beanstalk, but Paco and the giant chili plant. Because in Mexico, they grow chili plants, don't they? Yes, they're hot, hot, hot. Hey, I know. I've had that too. Well, I'll tell you what, Fargo, why don't you have a seat so I can show everyone Mexico is right up here. Not too far from where we are, not too far from those islands. But now I'm going to take off my Caribbean hat and put on a vest that came from Ecuador, which is a country in South America where they speak Spanish. And then I got it when I was traveling down near Mexico in Costa Rica. In all those countries, they speak Spanish, and this story is going to have a little Spanish in it as well. Here is Paco and the giant chili plant. Había una vez, once upon a time, there lived una mujer, a woman, que tenía un hijo, she had a son, and they lived alone in a house by the edge of a pueblo en el desierto, in the desert. Oh, the boy's father had gone away long ago in search of fortune and had never returned. And so la madre y el hijo, the mother and the son, they did all they could to survive, para sobrevivir. Pero un día llegó, a day arrived when the mother said, "Ay, mi hijo, Paco." The boy's name was Paco. She said, "Paco, no tenemos dinero. We don't have any dinero. No money, so you must go to el pueblo, to the village, to el mercado, the market, and sell the cow." But Paco said, "Pero mamá, but mother, the cow is all we have." And she said, "I know, yo sé, pero no tenemos otra opción. We don't have any other choice." And so Paco took la cuerda, the cord of the cow, and he led the cow towards the city. But along the way, he met a strange little man. "Ay, niño, ¿qué pasa? ¿Dónde vas tan triste? Oh, little boy, where are you going so sad?" And Paco told this man, with his strange long beard and his walking stick and his funny way of talking, Paco told him, "I am going to the market to sell the cow." And the old man said, "Oh, yo quiero una vaca. I want a cow. I will buy it from you. Yo tengo un costal de semillas de chiles mágicas. Here is a little bag of magic chile seeds. I will give it to you for the cow." And Paco said, "Magic chili seeds, what do they do?" And the old man said, "Tú verás, niño, tú verás. You will see, my boy, you will see." And so Paco accepted the little bag of chili seeds, and he gave the man the cow, and he started back home. When he got home, he found a field out behind the house, and he planted the seeds carefully in the ground, and then he watered them, and he took care of them, and he looked after them, and he waited and waited, but nothing happened. Nada pasó. And he waited and waited, pero nada pasó. Nothing happened. And he waited and waited, y todavía nada, still nothing. Until he was about to give up, when suddenly la tierra, the earth, started to shake, and then the ground broke, and up came a chile plant, reaching up higher, higher into the clouds. And Paco was amazed. It was mágica, magic indeed. And so he took his little bag and he climbed up the chile plant all the way to the top until he found himself in the land of the clouds. And he saw in the distance una casa gigante, a giant house. And so there at the top, there were chiles. There were beautiful green chiles and red chiles and yellow chiles as well. And so he picked some of the chiles de oro, the golden chiles, and he put those into his costal, into his little bag, and he walked across the cloud to that giant house. When he went through the big door, he saw everywhere cosas gigantes. Everything was so big. There was una mesa gigante, a giant table, y una silla gigante, a giant chair, y una cama gigante, a giant bed. And then he heard un sonido gigante, a giant sound. And so he scurried underneath the bed, and he looked out and he saw dos pies gigantes, two giant feet with ragged shoes, with toes dirty and sticking out. And then he saw a hand, a giant hand, reach down and pull him out, and he came face to face with el gigante terrible, with the terrible giant. ¿Qué haces en mi casa? What are you doing in my house? Said the terrible giant. Paco looked up at his glinting eyes, at his pointed, gnarly, ragged teeth, at his rough beard and scraggly hair everywhere. And Paco said, Estoy buscando algo bueno para mi mamá. I'm looking for something good for my mother. But the giant said, You will find nothing here. No hay nada aquí. Pero yo, just me. Y yo tengo hambre. I am hungry. And I am going to eat you. And the giant pulled him towards his face. But Paco thought quickly, and he said, Gigante, yo tengo algo para usted. I have something for you. Chiles de oro. And the giant said, Chiles de oro? Golden chiles, give them to me. And so Paco gave him the golden chiles. He gave him the bag, and the giant took the bag, but he squeezed it so tight that a golden chile came out, and it squirted in his eyes. And the giant said, Ay, 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 mis ojos, tan picosos, so hot. And he started to cry, lágrimas. He cried tears, como un río, like a river going down his face. And the tears started to melt him away. It melted that giant down into just un hombre, an ordinary man. And the man looked at Paco, and Paco looked at the man and said, Papa? And the man said, Paco, mijo, my son Paco. And Paco said, How did you become el gigante terrible? And his father said, I went searching, buscando fortuna, looking for fortune, and I found a giant chile plant, so I climbed it, and I took one of the golden chile peppers and ate it, and suddenly it turned me into el gigante terrible, and I didn't even know who I was, and I didn't even know who you were, my son, mijo. We better go. Ándale, down the giant chili plant. Let's climb. And so the two of them, they climbed down the plant. And then his father said, we need to make sure that nobody else is tricked by this chili plant. So he got a big axe and thwack, 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 he chopped it and it came tumbling down. And Mama came out and was so happy to see her husband. But Paco said, Papá, ¿qué podemos hacer ahora? Porque no tenemos tesoro, no tenemos los chiles. What can we do now? We don't have a treasure, we don't have the chiles. But his father said, Paco, we have each other. We have our farm, we have trabajo, work to do, and we have cuentos a contar. We have stories to tell. Y eso es bastante. That will be enough. And together they worked hard and lived happily as a family. Paco and the giant chile plant. Wow, so it was his dad. Yeah, isn't that an interesting twist on Jack and the Beanstalk? That's right, it's cool. In the original one, the giant was a mean guy, but in this one, it turned out it was his dad who had gone away. Yeah, and there was magic. Well, where'd you find that one? Oh, that one's in a book. Oh, yeah, it's in this book. Paco and the Giant Chili Plant. And this one is a fairy tale, but it's an adaptation, which means it didn't just grow up on its own in Mexico from people telling it a long time ago. It means that the authors, Keith Paulette and the illustrator, Elizabeth DeLemba, I think they came up with the idea of let's make a Jack and the Beanstalk that's set in Mexico. Well, Fargo, we have shared 4 of my favorites, and maybe yours too, of our far-flung fairy tales. That's right, we started with Lan Po Po from China, and then we did Mufaro's Beautiful Daughters from Zimbabwe. And then The Girl Who Spun Gold from the Caribbean. And finally, Paco and the Giant Chili Plant. Well, Fargo, I think it is time for us to go. Do you have anything else to say? Sure. These were far-flung fairy tales from all across the earth. They probably made you wonder, but we hope they brought you mirth. You probably said, "This sounds familiar," and then you asked, "Is this a joke?" Well, we sure hope they thrilled you, 'cause if not, I still might know. Fargo, please don't croak at these people. It's time for us to go. Look over there. Oh, there's Miss Jan. Yeah, I think she's ready to come on. So say goodbye. 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 Croak, Fargo.
Wow, Mr. Barry, that was fantastic. I am thrilled with your stories today. Listen, guys, let's give Mr. Barry a big round of applause. First off, yay!
Thank you so much, Miss Jan. It was fun. I love those stories.
They really are great. And if you really enjoy these stories, the fairy tales, be sure to come to the library and check out the 398.2 section because we have a lot more.
All right, well, thank you so much. Bye, everyone.
Bye.